Okay, and now share screen.
People get emotion gets.
Yep, the PowerPoint. Yep. Share. All right, now she should be good to go.
My first look.
Did you see Tina come in yet?
Not yet.
Over.
Yeah.
Well, I've been busy
Yeah.
with this printer thing, so she could have come into our office. Did you see her in our?
40 or 43,000.
There you go. All set. And then we'll just put this up there for her. And then if she asks how to control it, it's just the arrows up,
All right.
down, or side to side, whichever one she prefers.
Alrighty, thank you, Meg.
Yep, yep. Yeah, I'm joining on Zoom today.
Yeah, we're just, yeah. Yeah, we'll sell our house. Yeah. This one I bought. He's with Bush. Yeah. They, at one time, I think they probably had 300 or 400 buildings in New York City. Brandon, his partner.
It's not here. So I just went back to my computer. It's black.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he had a.
We need to get one of those TVs over there so we can see like what the presenter is showing.
I'm sure you have thought of that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. They.
Screen.
One side manager, you have to do all that.
We should be good. And or no. And I'll check. to make sure it's not on his screen.
It is market stuff. Yeah. Well, the first one we did that was. No, we stuck to, I figured about 180. Initially, you're going to stop. Walk through it again. Just have that big spot. Right across the way.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Cute dress.
Thanks. Fired up.
You are, that's awesome.
Not really, I have my fangs out today.
Oh, that kind of fired up.
I just had my seller call me and said, yeah, I still have a couple more calls, because she had personal family members that were interested in the house, and I said, okay, we'll accept them out. And she said, yeah, I also have to call this agent back who contacted me wondering how much the house is. It's from my post, I just took a couple pictures last night when we took photos. Yeah, so I just posted on Facebook to the agent who contacted my seller who clearly saw the photos. You can contact me, you know, ethics and stuff.
It's the workplace. What
What the hell is wrong with people?
You know, honest to God, I was going over this stuff and I'm really starting to feel like generational. You know, like,
Yeah.
like,
Like Bill Wisman, when I first got into the business, hated all new people.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a new person. And this gal's son-in-law is a referring KW agent to me. And like, I don't think she knows that. I'm gonna have to call him today and say,
I know.
because she thinks she just owes all kinds of people all kinds of things. I'm like, no, you don't. Just give me the names of the people that you had promised to let them know ahead of time.
Yep.
But clearly it was either somebody that went there and quoted, because she didn't want to talk to other people because she thought it was best for her mom.
Okay, so give us the quick down and dirty tutorial.
All you have to do is hit the arrows, and you do have people on Zoom now.
Okay, so what arrows and show me.
Second, I need to get your video started. People can also see the room. So when you're in here then, on your slide,
I'll get, yeah.
literally is just those buttons.
So. This side, this side.
Yep, yeah,
And then this is the mouse,
yeah.
wherever he is, where is he?
Yeah.
There, oh, there he is, I don't know where he is, but he moved somewhere.
There you go.
All right, well, come
You're all set.
rescue us if
I'll be on Zoom.
we can't figure it out.
Oh, we got it.
It's like the learning curve every week. You get to see the trainer go through. Do I advance the slides?
Even when they say it, oh, it's so simple. You can just,
Well, it is simple. It doesn't mean it's easy though, just like real estate,
yeah.
you know? Making your calls is simple.
Yeah.
It's not easy though. Definitely two different things, right?
You ride.
Yay! Thank you.
Yep.
There's gotta be a key in here somewhere.
I found it like near the top.
Here it is.
Yes, we found it. I did.
Person just like throws a key in a FedEx.
Oh, I got one.
And refrigerator and range every year.
How many units are there? How much you gonna sell for? But,
Well, not east, but east, it's in the city, but you know where, yeah.
all right, because Courtney's always on the hunt for investment properties.
Yeah.
She's not on the hunt for high taxes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Two.
Oh, my goodness.
Morning.
Good morning.
Right, good morning. I guess they can hear me on Zoom. Can y'all hear me on Zoom? Can't
Yes,
tell.
we can.
Excellent.
Oh, we
Great,
can hear
thank
them
you.
this time.
Yay!
We are making progress by session 8, no 7. We're getting this tech thing figured figured out.
Seven's a lucky number.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to be talking about open houses. My name is Tina Llorente, for those of you who don't know. And clearly this is going to be a little informal because, you know, it's kind of how we're walking and rolling through this class. But if you have any questions, certainly don't hesitate to put them in the chat, as well as you guys here will speak up. So just to give you a little bit of a foundation as to why I chose this session to teach. I've been in the industry about 17-ish years, give or take, 17, 18. And prior to that, I did new home construction for 2 years, which is essentially an open house every day, sitting in a new home. But you have to remember, back in the day, we didn't have computers that were personal computers that could go with us. And the builder would not allow us to sit on the computer. So, yeah.
Who'd you work for?
For Columbia Builders down in Maryland.
Wow.
High-end custom homes, $1 million price ranges. 20 years ago, that was a big deal.
Mhm.
And we did a lot of scripting and a lot of, you know, you treat every single client the same way. Like we had Ravens football players who bought in the neighborhood. We had, you know, high-end clientele. So every day, like when somebody would walk into the model home, you said the exact same thing every single time. And so when I came into resale, open houses were a natural segue for me. I relocated here from Texas and didn't know a single soul in Pennsylvania. So I didn't have a database to start with. And so open houses is where I started. So that kind of gives you a little bit about my foundation. So kind of know the rules. And here we go. Arrive on time, be comfortable, turn off cell phones, respect each other. We're going to do some ahas today, some lead gen talk, and we're going to do different in the next 24 hours. So open houses. I've done a lot of them. Haven't done a lot in like the last 5 years-ish, between the switch moving over to KW and COVID and being busy with RAAC. It just, I haven't been on my radar lately. But back in the day, I did a lot of it. When I first came into real estate, I was on a team and we had several builders that we represented exclusively. And so we would sit at those open houses. In addition to, that was one of the pillars of our business strategy, was to provide open houses to all of our sellers. So we did a lot. Everyone on the team was expected to do a Saturday open house from 12 to 2, a Sunday open house from 1 to 3, and depending upon how heavy our load was for listings, you might have done a 12 to 2 on Sunday, as well as a 3 to 5 or a 4 to 6 on Sunday. So that's 3 a week. Plus we did Wednesdays from 5 to 7 at someone's property or the new model home community. So that's a potential for 4 open houses a week. And I averaged about 8 hours for every open house. So when you look at the time commitment, and we will get to that later in the slides, open houses can be a full-time job. I like to say that Tom Brady, well, he's retired now, but when he did play football.
No, he's back.
Oh, he is? Well,
Yeah.
one day he is.
Retired for a couple months.
They don't just play for 3 hours on a Sunday. You know, that's what they do 7 days a week. They eat, sleep, and breathe that. You just see them for those 3 hours a week. Kind of the same thing with an open house. So there is a lot of time, energy, and prep work that goes into doing an open house correctly. And once you've kind of got your little roll going, you have your little bag, you have your box of stuff. It takes a while to get all of that assembled, but then you've got it in your car and all you have to do is interchange property information and out the door you go. So it gets to be a really good routine. But one of the great things about open houses is you're turning your habit nets into nets. So it's a fairly straightforward process, simple and not necessarily easy, but definitely simple. And they're certainly quick and they're certainly inexpensive in comparison to some of the things we've also been talking about in terms of farming and expensive marketing. You can see, I don't know what your page numbers are, is that 5, where Ron Campbell stated from Arlington, Virginia, open houses are one of the easiest, simplest, fastest, and cheapest ways to grow your business. You'll get buyers and you'll get sellers. And that's absolutely, certainly the case. You have no idea who is walking into that property when you are there. There he is. So we are now in the center pillar of our little temple here, number 7, open houses. So really a basis for all good business strategy, whether you do them once a month, you do them quarterly, every week, every Saturday, every Sunday. If you do a morning one, if you do brokers opens, which they didn't really talk about here, but we'll talk a little bit about a brokers open as well as a regular open house. I think it is something that all agents should put in their wheelhouse. And as we're starting to see our market shift a little bit from throwing a sign in the yard, running back to the office, updating the MLS, and then changing it to sold, like within the next 5 minutes. I think this is something we're going to have to all sharpen our skills on again. Because of HGTV and all those home improvement shows on TV, everybody in the public thinks they know what to expect when they walk into an open house. York, Pennsylvania is not New York City. We don't have, $25 million condos, but people still want to come in, doesn't matter the price range, and they want to see the decor, the layout, the colors, the style. They could be curious neighbors. They could be someone down the street who's potentially looking to sell their home at some point, or they could be a family member or a best friend from church or school or work, scoping it out to see how you are representing the person's house. So I'm not going to do a lot of interactive things. What initially do you guys think of when you think of an open house?
Exactly what they're saying there. Yep.
Yeah. Well, back in the day, I was brand new to real estate, and since I was on a team, I was pretty much focused on buyers only. So I tended to think all open houses were only for buyers. So it took me a while to kind of realize that, oh, these are, potential listing opportunities too. But absolutely, you're going to get lots of interesting queries. You can tell the neighbors because, they're going to be out in their yard clothes, carrying their little trowel, coming up the street, to come visit you. Clearly, that's a neighbor, but you just never know who else is out there looking. So these stats are from 2015. I was going to go into NAR and pull the most current stats. I just ran out of time, honestly. So my guess would be that these are probably a little higher because of the advent of HGTV, Property Brothers, all of those silly shows that are on TV that, we in the industry don't really appreciate. The public loves. The public thinks they know what to expect, and we're going to get a lot more people coming into these open houses with knowledge that they didn't have in 2015 when this was published, probably when it was written in 2013, 2014. But we are looking at a number of people. So let's, cut that by 20%, 30%. If we get, say, over a month, you might get 100 folks through your open house. I mean, back in the day, I would consider a really good open house if I got 5 to 8 couples through. That was like a really awesome open house. It really depends on price range, on location, and what the market is doing, if people are willing to take time out of their workday. Saturdays, most people, you've seen that ad during the fall with Home Depot that says, it's a football day, college football, or it's a Home Depot day, to go home and do your yard work and stuff. Well, that's kind of how open houses are. You're going to get a mixture of people who, once you kind of get used to it, you can kind of scope them out how they're dressed. Are they on their way to Ace Hardware, True Value, coming back because they're doing their own yard work in the neighborhood and they just want to pop in and see what the neighbor's house looks like? Or are they dressed a little different? And this is like their day out is looking at new houses, especially for first-time home buyers. You can do a full-time analysis on when they're walking in. You're like, okay, is she the boss or is he the boss? And who's going to run this show as they go through the open house? Are they first-time home buyers? Because you can just start to tell as they're looking at things. They're going to look at things very differently than a second or third-time home buyer. Give me some of your examples. Maybe we'll start with you, of some of your best open houses and some of your most memorable, which may not always be the best.
Most memorable was a full out stampede of people. Bob may or may not have been co-hosting with me at one of them, but I do not like when I am out of control and there are too many people, because my thing is, you come in, I greet you, I ask you to sign in on my sign-in sheet. If you're working with a realtor, there's a slot there for you to fill that out, because I like to follow up with the realtors right after the open house. And one of the big lies is, yeah, we're working with an agent. I say, great, who is that? I probably know them. And then they fail to come up with a name. So I'll say, well, just put the company down there, or do you know their first name or their last name? Or because when you go into a store, you're trained to have that defense. No, I don't need help looking around. I'm not going to force you to buy a house, but if you're working with an agent, I want to honor that relationship. So I try to, my best is I have my own bag that's specifically for open houses. I have consumer notices in there, pre-printed out, ready to go. I have, I did a little one-sheeter of how to buy a home in a competitive market. And of course I have my property flyers in there, my sign-in sheets. I have my own branded pens that I stick in there, but I like to control the situation and I like to know who's in the house and all that. And if they're wiggly when they come in and I say, are you a neighbor? And they'll say, yes, we just want to look around. I'll say, well, that's fantastic. Please do sign in still, because we need to know who's been in the home. But you might know someone that you want to call neighbor. So that's I love open houses.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always welcome the neighbors because they know the dirt on why this person is selling, how long they've been there, how they treated the house. And sometimes you can get really good information that maybe your seller or whoever's seller, that if you're posting it for someone else, didn't put in the seller's disclosure. So I love it when the neighbors come. And I'm glad you mentioned the consumer notice. That's something I didn't see in here, but I did put on my little notes here, is I have a little placard that I carry with me in my open house bag. And I do have the consumer notice because we are required by the state to put that out there when we start talking about specifics with people. So I have a generic one that I lay out on the table. And then I also have a buyer's agency, a blank one that I leave out next to my sign-in sheet as well. But I also put a copy of both of those up in one of the bedrooms or the master bath. If it's a nice property that has like a big spacious area, like around the sink and the vanity of the master bath, I will put everything that I'm putting down in the kitchen or the dining room table, I'll put up in the master bath.
Yes, they can see it without feeling sweaty.
And I know exactly, I know exactly how many of everything I put out. And I can always tell when things have gone missing.
Yeah.
I would much rather they take something, even if they don't appear to be interested, in between when people like, they'll come in waves. So in between waves, I'll sneak back upstairs, or I put it downstairs if there's like a fancy bar area, like someplace where it's private and away from where I'm hovering. We've all been to a department store and, well, probably not too much anymore. Where the perfume lady like chases you around and she's like, and trying to spritz you. I don't like that feeling as a consumer, and I certainly don't want my people to feel that. So when I put information in different places, then I kind of get the sense of if you're just a neighbor trying to see if your best friend updated the bathroom and didn't tell you, or if you're really a serious or potentially serious buyer or seller and you took information. And then I can kind of decide what direction to go with you for follow-up based on what you took. If you took the little flyer from RAYAC that says, 10 common mistakes that buyers make, I know you're closer to the first-time home buyer purchasing and need information. If you took lender information, that's where I'm gonna sway you. If you took, the MLS sheet, property information about the house, you might be in another direction. So I have a little bit of everything that I put out, and I put it out, like I said, strategically throughout the property. One of my most memorable open houses was I was in this kind of house. No other way about it, some houses merit a lovely open house day for you. Other houses, you're like,
Going through the motion.
why am I here? But you do it consistently, and you do the same thing regardless if it's a beautiful, gorgeous house on the country, country club road, or if it's just a little scuzzy house, because it was somebody's home. And you always have to remember, whoever bought it, whoever built it, maybe it was 400 years ago, when they bought it, they loved it. So maybe the grandkids and the kids that are selling this estate home don't care as much as grandma and grandpa cared, but you gotta do what you gotta do. I remember this open house, and it was sort of kind of here in East York, one of the older homes, and vacant. Which brings me to another point. Always keep a camp chair in your trunk. Because if it's a rancher, you do not want to be standing for 2 hours if nobody comes. So that's another little tip for open houses, because if the toilet's the only place to sit, you don't want to be sitting on the toilet seat when people come in and standing for 2 hours, especially if you're doing open houses back to back, makes for a long day. So I'm in this kind of scuzzy house, but I have all my stuff out. So like I have the MLS sheets, and I have, flyers and takeaways and snacks, and, I do the whole thing. And I only had one person come in. And he was very blue collar and very dressed down. And I could tell that this wasn't the fit for him by his questions. And I figured out pretty quickly, he wasn't interested in the house. He was shopping for a realtor. And so he had been going around open houses. Of course, years later, he fessed up. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on. I just knew that this didn't seem like the right fit for him and what he said he was looking for and needing. But I gave him every courtesy that I would have given anybody else that came through, and showed him the amenities of the house as we saw fit. Well, years later, not only did he come back, he said to me, he called me, because he wouldn't leave his name, he wouldn't sign the sign-in sheet. And, sometimes they're Mickey and Minnie Mouses, and, you get all sorts of crazy names if you force people. But I have sold them, I listed and sold their house. I've helped them buy another house. I helped him sell his son a house. I helped him It was a second marriage for each. I helped the wife's daughter buy a house. I helped the wife's son buy a house.
Wow.
And now they're getting ready, probably in the next couple of years, to sell the second house I sold them to move into retirement. So
Wow.
you don't know. And it was this scuzzy little house, and I was so angry to be there, and I was so resentful, and I was like, I can't believe I'm wasting my time here. It's,
Yeah.
2 hours. Well, it's not, it's more like 8, but while you're in the house, you're at work. So you buckle up and you smile and you do what you need to do. But that's one of my most memorable open houses, is because I could just really tell this guy was shopping me. And 8, 9, 10 transactions later in 20 years,
That's wild.
we barbecue together. So you just never know who's gonna come in. Myth, open houses are just for new agents. No, everybody needs to be doing them, like I said. I don't have any listings, so I can't hold an open house. No, I didn't have listings for a very long time. As I said, I was a buyer's agent on a team, and it was part of my job description and my job requirements and job duties to host the listing agents' properties for them. And that was just the way our team was structured. And when the listing agent, the Rainmaker, took a listing, they told the sellers, I'm gonna have Tina come in and she's gonna do an open house for you. So, that was just the way we worked. And like I said, you don't sit at an open house, even if they're scuzzy little houses, you still stand and you still work them. One thing that I did religiously for a very long time was take snacks. I would, get a gallon of lemonade and cookies. And in the beginning, when I couldn't afford to get a beautiful tray, I would get a brownie mix and make them myself, put them on a paper plate, and then, kind of build them up as, yes, they're mine. I made them homemade, blah, blah, blah. It was $2. So, in today's market with COVID, I don't know how well that would be received, but back in the day, people were happy to have a Dixie cup full of lemonade. And, depending upon where the house is, how many people you think, get a half a gallon, you can spend $5, little thing of lemonade, get a big column of cups that'll last you for a year, because you're probably going to use 3 at a time.
Yeah.
And a stack of pretty napkins, and just coordinate your colors together. And every single time you just set everything out, and people love that. But that way you can really start to work it and make it your own. I know you read the story of the builder's wife in here, but it was kind of the same idea. You can really get a system going in terms of what you do. This team did like a parade of homes, 5 to 6 houses every Sunday, which in their market generated 20 to 30 couples. That's a little more than we would get in like the York area, because Plano is obviously a larger metropolitan. But you will start to get open house groupies. You will start to be, if you're consistent, you will figure out, and they will figure out who they like and who they don't like. I had a mom come through. There was this little house over on Albemarle that the Rainmaker had listed, and tiny, like you could touch both walls in the kitchen. Like it was a tiny little house. But this lady came in and she was walking with a cane. So I knew it wasn't for her because it was a cape, 2 bedrooms upstairs. She didn't go there. Well, she followed me around for 3 or 4 Sundays. And she was working that neighborhood to find a house for her daughter. Her daughter wasn't brave enough to start going to open houses. So the mom and I, every Sunday, wherever I was, because of the, we marketed it in advance and you put your name out there so people would know where you were. by like the fourth or fifth Sunday, it was like, I knew her, hi Linda, how are you? I still didn't know her daughter's name, but every week I would get a little bit more information. I've sold those kids, well, they're now married. I've sold them 3 houses. Helped them buy their very first home, which is what the mom was looking for. Helped them sell that very first home, helped them buy a second home. You know, a move up home. So it wasn't for her, but she followed me every week for a good quarter. And she would go to every single open house, and she kind of picked me as her child's agent. And when it was time, she said, here's my daughter. She finally brought her to an open house and said, you and Tina are gonna work together. And the daughter was like, okay, what do I know? But, you know, yeah, like the mom had vetted
Prearranged.
over all of these Sundays. So if you just never know who is gonna be out there. So I recommend setting a goal for your open houses. Like I said, if you're gonna do 1 or 2 a month, if you're gonna do 1 every Sunday, because you will get to see similar people and you'll be able to tell, Mindy's come through a couple of times, sometimes by herself, sometimes with a guy, sometimes with somebody younger. So is she the buyer? Is she shopping for her son? Is it, is she getting a divorce that her husband doesn't know and she's shopping with the boyfriend? Once, realtors could write a book.
Yeah.
You know,
we could.
so,
Which is why I'm saying,
yeah.
well, no.
But yeah, so
Married,
you
I should
don't
say.
know who's coming in and if it's for them or if they're looking for somebody else. So just kind of go with the flow, but you will get to see a lot of things if you're very, very consistent in it, especially when they're in the market for a certain price range. And if you jump around in your price ranges, you might miss them for a couple of weeks, but then when you circle back around, or if you're in a neighborhood, if you do 3 or 4 in a neighborhood, you might see the same people, so you know they're shopping that area. It's definitely an interesting experience. The more you do it, the more you're going to be good at the psychology of who's coming in the door for you. And then another thing that is really fun to do, actually, because sometimes open houses do get boring when you're like doing them every weekend, is to do it with other agents. And they do not have to be other agents in your same brokerage. Sorry, KW. That's what RAC is for. We have 1,300 members. Call your buddy. If you see a sign in the neighborhood and it's an established area, do something together. We did that all the time, and it was great fun because you could have the appetizer, the little sandwiches, you could do dessert, you could do something else, like you do the cupcakes, you do the finger sandwiches, you do something else, and whoever's house has a pool, we want to end up there. And then we talk to each of the brokerage people and say, hey, we're doing 4 houses in X community, and back in the day we had to pay good money for advertising.
Yeah,
And so we had to coordinate, but it was great because then you could call and go, did they like your house? Did they like your house? And if maybe you didn't sell your house for your seller, it was really good because if the seller lives in that neighborhood, they might know, the guy who listed three blocks away with that other agent, they might have been in that house for Christmas parties, or their kids might play together. And so even if their house doesn't get a buyer that weekend, but their friend's house did, it makes you look like a professional and like you're cooperating with,
we used to do that a lot
industry.
in neighborhoods.
It makes it
homes for more than 20 minutes.
Yeah, it makes it fun too, because you can do less work specifically for your house, but the overall pop of the neighborhood is huge, because all of your database knows about it, all of your database knows about it, all of your database. And if you're putting out balloons, you're putting out directionals, you're putting out all that stuff, somebody who accidentally is just driving past might see the sign for X brokerage, but then when they turn the corner, or in your open house, you just have a very simple thing saying, visit these other 4 houses that are open today, then they're like, oh
Map,
my gosh.
little map with.
And you can just make one of those and, you know, it's super easy to operate, you know, I'll just use the exact same thing. But that's a really fun way to do it if you're kind of getting bored with the whole idea of open houses. The open house model: prepare and promote, qualify leads and build trust, follow up, and be the #1 market agent. There's lots of different ways you can focus. You're going to focus on a geographical area, and then just like every single open house you want to get that, whether it's your brokerage or not, you're going to be the person who knows Haynes Acres or, you know, the Outdoor Country Club. Or do you want to do like a certain price range? Or do you not care? You just want to get out there and do it. So kind of decide what direction you want to take, and then like get down to brass tacks and figure out exactly what you're going to do. Preparing for an open house is a lot of work. People who are like, oh, I'm doing an open house on Sunday from 1 to 3 and it's Saturday at 4:45 and they don't know like where the house is yet. How are they going to sell that house? Like, not that everybody who comes into an open house is going to buy that house. That rarely happens, but you're marketing yourself. Like, you need to show up. You need to be there early. One thing I was always taught was, you know, arrive 15 to 20 minutes early for your open house. Because there's going to be somebody at some point that's sitting out there in their car and they have like 6 more open houses to go to, and they only have that 2 hours. So geographically, yours was the closest to their house. So they're going to start that way. So always get there early. Turn on all the lights, turn on all the fans, turn on some kind of music, which in today's market is super easy. Back in the day with a vacant house, before we had cell phones, you know, have to carry a little transistor radio thingy around to try to find something decent on the FM radio
Yeah, we
station.
had no cable channels.
Well,
no
if it was vacant, they didn't have
Yeah.
TV, and
Yeah.
you were like, oh, you know. Don't sit on the sofa and watch the football game. I mean, there have been a lot of open houses I have attended where I walked through and the agent didn't even bother to turn around and wave. It's like, really? So you just came over on a Sunday afternoon to watch the Packers play in somebody else's house? Why bother? Like, why bother? So turn some music on and something sort of quiet in the background. Put all your documentation out. I said I usually put it in multiple places. The garage is also a really nice place to stick it because husbands may not travel up to the master bedroom and closets, but while the wife goes that way, the husband will go out into the garage. So if there's a really nice workbench, that's also a really great place to lay stuff. Flowers are always a nice idea. If it's a beautiful home, take them some fresh flowers. And then when you're done with the open house, leave them with a little note saying, you know, enjoy these flowers for the rest of the week or something like that. Flags and directionals. You need to be putting out anywhere from 6 to 10. If you're going to waste your time, spend your time. If you're going to spend your time at an open house, nobody is coming if they don't have a directional out. So you need to have a supply of directionals to get people to your property. Any kind of a curve, any kind of a turn to get you from point A from a major street into the house is what you need. In the book, it says never pick a house with more than 3 turns. I'm sorry, that's impossible to do.
Yeah.
But I try to, you know, direct them off of some kind of a major street, you know, off of Greenbrier or off of, you know, Roosevelt, anything that's going to be a very busy street on a Sunday afternoon or a Saturday, near shopping, near restaurants. People might come out of lunch and be like, oh, there's an open house, let's go. You know, so put out your directionals and then don't forget to pick them up because that's also not very nice. You also want to check, while I'm talking about directionals, it's a little out of order. Check in on rayac.com, you can check under the township regulations section and see which townships allow you to put your open house signs out and your directionals out on which day. In your materials, it says put them out, like on Wednesday. Oh no, be very careful, because in your county, every township, every municipality, and every borough is different. Between York and Adams County, we have 106 municipalities, townships, and boroughs. So yes, what somebody allows in East Berlin for a directional is going to be very different than what they allow downtown Hanover or down in Delta or in, shall
Or
we
when.
say,
Yeah.
York Township.
It all started because builders would put out 175 of the same thing at every intersection, and then that's where
And then they would all stay
I was
there.
part of that committee that
Right.
started that.
And then it would rain, and then they would fall over, and then it would snow, and then they would fall over, and then nobody picked them back up. So check, because the townships will come through, they will abscond with your signs, and then they will hold them hostage. And then on Monday morning, you will get a phone call, and you will have to come to the Springett's Township office.
Oh, no, they
or
throw them
the-
in the dumpster now.
Oh, well, back in the day, they made you come in like you were going to the principal's office, and you had to collect them and get chewed out for, violating where you put your sign and all that kind of stuff. So
And-
that can get expensive very quickly.
Just a side note, I was part of that committee that started that township database at RAAC. So if you find anything that has changed or different information from what was recorded there, please let somebody at RAAC know, because it's a real task to update that all at one time. So
And it's a
Where was it?
go on the RAYAC website, and up in the
Members.
top, on the search area, just put in yard sign, open house, directionals, and then,
yeah,
but there's like a whole
It's
page. like,
municipalities.
under municipalities, and it'll list if there's any ordinances. And it's been so long since I've done these that I don't remember, but I used to know in my head which township, and I would keep all the signs in my car, which townships I could put out on a Thursday after 5, which townships I couldn't put out until Friday morning at 8, which townships you can't put out until Friday after 5. And then you have a certain amount of time to pick them all back up on Sundays.
And then
So,
that site also has the township supervisor, any other ordinances, pets, that kind of stuff. Do they need certain inspections? So I traditionally print that out for all my buyers for any township that they're moving into. And then they have a generic listing of all the utilities that service the area. So it's handy.
yeah, it's a very good resource for us. And while I'm also talking, it's a little out of order, this is more with informational areas. Hopefully you guys all are aware of openthisweek.com. It is a website that took many, many years for us to get and to put together at RAAC. And back in the day, yes, back in the day, we would have brokerage A and brokerage B and brokerage C, and they would all be trying to get the word out. This is when the internet was a baby. And we were segueing from newsprint, and you had to have your article, you had to have your ad in by Tuesday to get approved by Wednesday. You had to have your payment in to accounting by Wednesday noon, because they had to submit everything to the York Daily Record, like for your ad for not that weekend, but the next weekend.
Yep.
So they were like a week and a half in advance. So you,
I
this
feel
was-
like a dinosaur talking about
I know,
it.
I feel like a dinosaur. But that's why I'm saying the prep work to know that in 2 weeks you were doing an open house, because that house was still gonna be there, because the house was gonna be on the market for 90 days anyway. That's why you take 180-day listing, because it's gonna be there in 3 weeks. So you'd have to do all this stuff and back it up time-wise. But openthisweek.com is a great resource to tell all of your buyers. It is free. It's searchable by school district, by price range. So if somebody only wants to live in York Suburban, they can go and they can click on the little outline for York Suburban School District, and they can see every single open house that is coming in York County. If they only want to look at homes that are from $200,000 to $240,000 in all of York County, because they don't care, they can type that in. And that is updated as soon as you put it in Bright. So there's a little thing in Bright that says open houses. You just type it in, boom, done. You just save 10 days compared to
Yeah.
how we used to have to do it. So it's great. It is a great site. To show people, I put it on everything at the open house because maybe they stumbled upon my open house, but the public didn't know about this because there's a lot of agents that don't even know that your dues are
Yeah,
going.
I
to
saw
this.
Shanna just did a thing about it.
Yeah, so tell your fellow agents about it because they may not know either, but it's a great resource for your buyers. Because back in the day, people would, before they go to church, they would sit and circle in the newspaper where they were going to open houses after church. Now, all you have to do is on your phone, openthisweek.com, boom, there you go. So, you know, it saves everybody a lot of time. Let's see here. So goals, which houses, stage the house, we talked about that. Please remove any pet goals. I love pets just as much as you guys do, but during the open house, nobody wants to see a litter box and nobody wants to see, you know, Fifi's little wet canned food stinking up the kitchen.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta put that somewhere. If you set it in the garage, if you set it in the oven, if you set it, you know, set it somewhere, but it doesn't need to be in the kitchen because that's just plain gross. And then don't forget to put it back. Building relationships, preparing the neighborhood and marketing, talk about that, and be safe. Yes, guys can also have problems at open houses. You only have to read a few things on NAR to realize how dangerous open houses are. We're very fortunate for the most part here in York County and Adams County, Lancaster County, you know, the Campbell area, that we're pretty safe. But when you go into your open house, because you got there 15 or 20 minutes early, you go in. This is how I do it and how I was taught. I go in, lock the door behind you. You walk the house. Hopefully, if you know, because you might be doing it for somebody else, like the rainmaker or somebody on your team or a total stranger in your office. So you haven't been to the house. You walk the house, turn on all the lights, check where the doors are, check if there's anything funky, weird, you know, with the house. Especially if you're doing a property that could be in an area that's kind of questionable, because we do those open houses too. Make sure you've removed the bars from the sliders, so you know when your first guest comes, they don't, you know, get the slider open. Make sure you know if the attic is a closed attic, so that, you know, if they walk up there, it's like a dead space. Keep track, even if people won't sign in, kind of how many people are coming into the house. If you saw a couple come in and then you've only seen her leave, where's the guy, or vice versa. Hopefully they're not using the facilities, but that would be the best of all situations, is that they're in the bathroom. Just be careful. You know, don't go first. Don't be polite and say, oh, let me show you this room. No. You know, master bathroom is over there. You know, feel free to take a look. You know, you want to direct traffic, try to stay centrally located, especially if you get that kind of funky, queasy feeling. Don't take anything valuable in, ladies. Don't take your purses into an open house. You're not shopping, okay? Like, you don't need to take anything in with you, just like that. Guys, you know, don't take fancy sunglasses. Don't leave your car keys like out on the kitchen counter. You know, it's just be careful. Talked a little bit about that. Pairing house, high traffic area, we talked about that, desirable neighborhoods, staging the house. Sometimes it's just as simple as, you know, like before you get there, dig under the kitchen sink, and if you find the Windex, clean the front door. You know, if it's a glass door, just do the seller a favor and tidy that up a little bit. One thing that's kind of nice with staging, talk to them before, or you can keep a package in your little open house package, make sure they don't have any allergies. But you can take those little bounce dryer sheets and you can tuck them throughout the house and then remember to take them back with you because they do offer kind of a fresh scent without spritzing or spraying anything at someone else's house. We talked about that. We're going to filter for. Okay, so prepare to be the neighborhood and market expert. This is where Bright is amazing. You can pull all sorts of information. I typically pull, the MLS sheet for that particular house. So if they want to pick it up, take it, print out a couple of seller's disclosures. I know a lot of this stuff is online, but there are still some of us nerds out there who like paper and want to see it. It's really hard to see a seller's disclosure on your phone, especially if you're really excited about it and it's this big on your phone. So you can tell, you can tell if they're interested because if they pick up a stapled copy of the seller's disclosure and then they stand out in the front yard for 15 minutes, excuse yourself from the other people in there and step outside and say, is there anything I can answer for you? I'm not the listing agent, but I can get back to you by 5-ish, because I finish here at 3, I have to drop my signs back off. I have a few things that, by the time I pick up all my directionals, but could I give you a call by 5 with the answer to that? And then you'll be able to tell, because sometimes then they'll be like, oh, I didn't want to sign in earlier. But if they've been standing out in the heat or the cold reading a seller's disclosure, they're interested. I also print other things in the neighborhood, like, just do like the agent one line that says coming soon, active, pending, and sold. And then I highlight that particular house so they can kind of see what else is going on in the neighborhood. I do like a geographical radius search. So you can see that 3 months ago, the house down there sold because they might want to drive past it and kind of compare. Well, if they got X dollars for this house, how much is this one? Where's the market going, or vice versa? If we're back into short sales and foreclosures, you can print a list of that neighborhood for them as well. And then I usually write in really big black Sharpie, do not take, or open house copy, something like that. Because then if they're looking at it, you're like, you know what, I can send you a copy of that. Would you like me to send you a copy of that? And then all you have to do is go back into Bright, the saved search, and then email it to them because they can get their email address. So
Do you know if when we use HomeSnap and we send the property out to a client, can they see the seller's disclosure on there? Because I've had several people say it's not attached.
that I don't know.
And then I had to click on that and just send that separate.
Yeah.
I've noticed sometimes the listing agent will have the seller's disclosure set as not shareable.
Yeah, that's a gimmick.
So I
Yeah.
I send listings out to some clients, and because I blind copy my cell phone, I open it up and it's not there, but it's, and then I have to send it separately.
And then Kristen had a,
Yeah.
oh my God moment the other day because she sent me a property and she's like, can you see the agent only remarks on here? And I said, I can, but I think it's because it recognizes that I'm a realtor. Try sending it to your husband and check his phone. Because of course, if an agent would send it to me, I'm listed as an agent
Right.
in there. So I should be able to see agent to agent remarks, but there are things in there that the public shouldn't see.
Exactly. And you don't want to print out the agent copy for your open houses because you don't want the listing agent's information in there if you're sitting it for somebody else, because you want them to call you. That's the whole point.
Well, we're never
Versus-
supposed to share that agent
Right.
copy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but
See them.
sometimes, so, but that's a good way to really figure out what people are interested by the different marketing stuff you put out. And then I usually put out some generic, realtor stuff from like NAR or CRS or something like that too. What do buyers want to know and what do sellers want to know? Well, they want to be there 3D live in person. Think about you being a purchaser. What can you purchase on Amazon versus going into a department store? You know, they want to see, does the house smell like cat pee? You can't tell that online. You know, they want to walk that deck and see how deep the backyard is, how sloped. So kind of tailor your comments to that. They already are gonna know in this day and age. It's different than when we started. You know, we used to have this little ad this big, and that's all people saw. You know, the front of the house was black and white, because nobody could afford
Grainy.
color, and it was grainy, and you know, the open house type. So they came in kind of blind. They didn't know. But now they're gonna know the bedrooms, the bathrooms, that it has a finished basement. They're gonna have looked at all the pillow pictures on Zillow. They'll have looked at it on Redfin. If you send them a copy or their agent has seen it in bright.
I'm gonna see if that room is actually as big as it looks in the picture.
Right, exactly. Will it hold a king size bed
Yeah.
because the agent was too lazy to measure the rooms?
Why people don't put room measurements in is beyond me, and why
Yeah.
consumers don't look at the rooms. Oh, this is really small.
Yeah.
It said it was a 9 by 9.
Right, yeah.
I'm happy that y'all said that because I actually never knew to even do that. So thank you for letting me know.
Yes.
So now for future
Yes.
reference, you won't see it on mine.
If
Do
you're
it.
having a
Do it.
photographer shoot your
Right.
property, they also, that's an add-on. You can just like
Or-
360
Text them
tours.
to-
Yeah, or you can just go to Home Depot or Lowe's or True Value.
Measure.
No, don't
No.
get a measuring.
Get a laser. one of those.
Trust me, you're not gonna be wearing a silk blouse, but if you're in a vacant home by yourself with a silk blouse, true story, and you got that stupid little metal thing, and then you have to take your shoe off to hold it, because then you gotta turn it around and measure it this way, and then you gotta take your other shoe off and hold it this way, like, trust me, you don't want that, because then when that thing comes running back at you and it like rips your whole blouse, you're gonna be like, walk around the rest of the day with. Don't do that. Now they have these lovely little lasers. So spend $60 and go get a laser measurer
Right.
Yeah.
and learn how to use it. Go home and measure your own house 40 times.
Right.
Because now they'll do, you know, floor to ceiling, they'll figure out your cubic area, like if you have a
Your
client.
iPhone has a Kareem measurer.
You
You have a,
I don't really trust the iPhone.
It's
It
not
does, but it's
Yeah.
not the
It's not
same.
accurate.
Yeah.
It does, but it doesn't.
doesn't.
I used
And
it for like, I use the
yeah.
iPhone for like couches when you want to put like couch in the house or something like that. It
Right.
didn't work out that great.
But that's,
so.
yeah, you're gonna look more like a professional if you whip out of your little pocket, or because it's close to have pockets, if you're dangling from your little wrist, the little wristy thing, and you actually have a measurer.
You bust
In
up
the
the
trunk of my
measurement.
car in my toolbox.
Yeah, just buy one, it's a tax write-off, I mean, it's a
Right.
business expense, and it's something you need. If your seller, when you're sitting there at your listing appointment, says, you know, should I change the carpet in this, you can whip it out of your little bag
Exactly.
and go, oh, this is a, you know, X dimension room, and you'll need X dimensions when you call Wecker to see if you can get a remnant. They'll be like,
It's also a great laser
It's great.
pointer to occupy the resident cat when they won't be viewing.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's kind of fun too.
There's the open window.
No, I do that.
But though, you know, that's something that people want to know is how big are the rooms? Please put it in bright
Right.
every single time. But definitely at open houses, that's what they want, you know, does it smell like cat pee? And how deep is this, you know, the stair steps when you go up? It's that kind of stuff. They can see the pictures. We talked about this a little bit. Yeah. If you're going to do an open house in an area that is questionable, I have invited my husband to come with me and sit, like if it's a vacant house. And he doesn't even have, they don't even have to stay in the same room. Like they can go sit in a bedroom somewhere and work on their laptop these days. It's super easy. Or they can be sitting in their car in the, you know, in the driveway if it's in the fall and they want to do that. I've had my husband take the dog for a walk in the neighborhood because I thought it would be a little too weird to have him in the house, but he's close by.
Right.
You could also team up with a lender. You can team up with a newer agent, somebody to sit there with you and chat and do other things. We're so fortunate now with our laptops and with our cell phones. We were not so fortunate 20 years ago. When you got to the open house, you were like, please let somebody come, please let somebody come, please let somebody come, because you couldn't do anything else.
Right.
They did, you didn't want to be sitting there reading the Harlequin when they came in, but like, there wasn't a lot you could do besides drag in paperwork or write thank you notes. So you can keep yourself busy, but if you think it might be in a questionable area, bring a friend. That's always a good thing to do. Prospecting around open houses. Should I prospect and should I market? Yes and yes. The rule was, back in the day, 10 across the street and 5 on each side. If it was a really nice neighborhood, 20 across the street and 10 on each side. Invite the neighbors. We used to have these lovely door hangers, which I don't even know if they make door hangers anymore.
They do, and if you use First American Home Warranty,
Cheryl has some.
Cheryl has them for you for
Yep.
free.
Yep.
Place for you to pop in your card.
But walk around the neighborhood and, you can give them a little goodie, or you can just hand it to them. I'm also just handed MLS sheets, shrink them or put them on half sheets or something, just to hand them and say, hey, I'm doing an open house at 123 Main Street on Saturday from 12 to 2. If you're out mowing the grass, would love to have you come in. You might know somebody at church or work who wants to come in and live in your neighborhood. And I would love to see you, because I got to be there anyway. So I would love for you to come and keep me company, or, like, make it fun, make it cute. And, I love your dog, I love your kid, whatever, your house looks cute. Because you'd be surprised how many times after an open house, the neighbors may not come from 1 to 3. They might be there a couple minutes early, just to pop in before the actual open house, or like at 3:05 when you really have to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And you don't go with the open house. And you're like running to your next appointment and you're putting signs in your car. Then you have 4 neighbors come over. Real quick. I've been here for 2 hours. Why didn't you come? Because then they might say, oh, well, this living room's a little different than mine. Would you mind looking at mine? And you're like, oh. I'd be happy to. So you just never know, but absolutely prospecting around open houses is the easiest way, because you have something to tell them. You're not just knocking on the door, and you're not a religious organization, and you're not, selling them solar panels or something. You're actually inviting them somewhere. And that's when I found that, depending upon the neighborhood, I might then throw in by the 3rd or 4th house, when I see all these kids, oh, and I'm gonna be having cookies. Because then, they're all like, oh, mommy, they're gonna be cookies. And you can remember that 4-year-old is gonna remember that they're gonna have cookies at the open house. And so they're gonna drag all the other moms in for cookies.
Right.
So I've gone as fancy as like getting, fruit trays and food, like real sandwiches and all sorts of things. It really just depends on the house, and make sure the sellers are okay with it. Don't get chocolate. I mean, I did say brownies earlier, but because that can get ground into carpet really easy, but try to get light colored stuff, lemonade, no fruit punch, that kind of stuff. Call your Mets, send out information to people who are in your database in that price range or in that neighborhood, even if it's a totally different area than what you've normally worked. If you have a client who lives there, invite them to come down. Because then you can say, I sold Bob his house, 6 years ago, was it? And then let him tell everybody how awesome you are. And then he can talk about the neighborhood. Because you're like, I don't really know anything about this neighborhood other than what I read in the listing information and on the MLS. So let him talk. Because he may not buy the house, but he could sell it to somebody else. That's really good in areas where you're not 100% comfortable with that area. Marketing, adapting the right mindset, make it fun. there's nothing worse than slogging to an open house and like not wanting to be there. Like, it's miserable. I've done enough of those too. So try to make it fun, put on good music before you get there. Do something interesting. Here we're talking about signage again, and if you have somebody else in the neighborhood who has houses listed, we all know that those same buyers who are coming to your open house are gonna drive past those other houses too. If they've schlepped all the way up from Baltimore to look at your open house, even if those other 4 houses are not open today, you can guarantee if they like the neighborhood and what you told them about it, they're gonna call those other agents. So just print out the information at your open house. Do even like the gallery side version, you know, where you just get like the picture, the price, and like basic information. And then go ahead and just highlight the streets and say, these other 4 houses are not available today, but if you want to take a look, because if this one doesn't fit you, or if you like the neighborhood, but this one might be sold by Wednesday, if you want to see any of these others, just let me know. Then they have the information, they have your name, and they won't hopefully go calling those other agents, because it's much easier to call one person to see 4 houses than to make 4 phone calls. And so, you know, take all the work out of it for them as well. And here we can see, drive in and out of the neighborhood or the city or the area multiple ways before you put your directionals out. If you've got an open house down in Red Line and Windsor, don't take them past the landfill. You know, like, please, I don't care if that's the quickest route when you did your little GPS thingy, go drive it. You know, same thing with directions on Bright. Before you put it in, don't just GPS it. You know, don't just MapQuest it and be like, oh, well, no, take, you know.
My favorite is when the realtor puts in, use your GPS.
Yeah, use your
Right.
GPS, exactly. Well, back in the day when we had the map books, but drive past it, because maybe you've got some, maybe that end of the neighborhood isn't quite as nice as this end of the neighborhood. Well, if they're not from the area, they won't know how to get there except for following your directionals.
Right.
If they're from the area, they already know that that side of the neighborhood is not as nice as this side, so they'll come in however they want. But the directionals are for people who aren't familiar. So I always am putting the directionals in for somebody from Iowa. They flew in over the weekend, they're relocating here for a job, they don't know anything. So take them off of Route 30, take them off of, you know, North George Street, take them off of a main road somewhere, and then guide them from there, you know. And if they have to go out of their way a little bit, and it's prettier, and they get to go past a really nice house versus coming in the back way and seeing the Roddy and, you know, the car jacked up with the chains and, you know, take them the other direction. Don't take them past the landfill. Your signs, you can go very inexpensive and get, you know, signs here from the office that are very generic for KW, or you can do what some people do and print your own. Just make sure that you have contacted the Real Estate Commission and make sure you follow all the guidelines. You cannot use Maryland signs in the state of Pennsylvania. Your cell phone number can be on there, but your broker's number has to be on there the same size. Your font size has to be a certain size. Your name cannot be bigger than your company's name and logo. So it makes me crazy because people are like, oh, graphically, this is gorgeous. Yes, I understand that graphically it looks really pretty, but it is illegal in the state of Pennsylvania.
Can we get Pennsylvania, this is a side note, can we get them to be more like
Consistent.
other states?
I doubt it.
Because there's no straight answer when you do call them.
Yeah,
Even
know.
for team names when I call them.
Yeah.
But other states are a little more liberal with that.
Yeah.
And
It is one of the #1 complaints we get at RAAC. So, but yeah, just make sure you're meeting all the criteria. Sign placement, we talked about that. Put your name on, use balloons. Back in the day when helium wasn't so expensive, we had a helium tank in our office. and a bag of balloons, and you got to go in every single Sunday after church. I would rush in and there would be a line
Oh,
of
yeah.
all of us waiting to put helium in our balloons and get our balloons out. 3 is a minimum, 1 is gonna pop. So if you only put 1 out, it's gonna pop. If you put 2 out, 1 is gonna pop and 1 looks stupid. So always do at least 3 or more, because as 1 pops, getting in your car, out of your car, tying it up, tree branched, a kid, next door neighbor's dog pees on it, steals it, whatever. Don't do less than 3. So there's my little tip for you on balloons. 10 directionals, we talked about that. 5 days before, we talked about that, check with the township rules. Ask the neighbors with corner lots. It doesn't take you more than 3 minutes to get out of your car. Do not walk across their grass. Park in the driveway or on the street. Use a sidewalk. Walk up to the front door and ring the doorbell and ask them if you may place a directional sign on the corner of their property. Explain who you are, wear your name tag so you look official, and say thank you very much. Invite them to the open house. Don't just go plopping your signs on people's private property, even if it's that little grassy strip that they technically don't own. Just don't do it, because you'll go back for your open house and all your directionals will be gone, because Mr. Neighbor X talked to Mr. Neighbor Y and they were both in a bad mood when they got home from work on Friday night, so they took all your signs and threw it away.
I personally just don't like people putting their signs in my yard, so I know exactly how it feels.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense for you to come knock on my door and ask me. I'd be like, yeah, but then if you just plop it in.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely gone by the time you leave, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then and like sometimes you can thank them up front, obviously verbally, but then I keep like a little stash in my open house bag of $5 gift cards. And so I have, from Starbucks, I have from Dunkin', I have from different places, and kind of judging on the person, like a $5 Sheets card or a $5 whatever. And then when you take the sign out of the car, you put it back in your car, then you take the time, you walk on the sidewalk, do not walk on their grass because they are watching you.
Yeah.
Go up there and knock on the door and say, thank you very much for allowing me to place my sign on your yard. We had nobody at the open house, so here, have 20 cookies. Or we had a great open house. Here's a, little thank you card for you. Keep note cards in your bag as well and just say, thank you. Look them up on the tax record while you're at the open house, Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so for allowing me to place my sign. Put your business card in there, put the $5 card, and be on your way. So thank them. Max turn 3, yeah, no. Put your phone number on open house lawn since you talked about that. Yeah, talk to the real estate commission is what you would do to improve this.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there's someone that we could lobby or a whole committee. Do I need to get a job there?
Yeah,
Commission.
I know. Go to PAR
It's
meetings.
really antiquated.
It is.
Other
It is.
states haven't harmed the consumer by allowing the agent's name to be more prominent.
I know.
And if Gary Keller had his way, his name wouldn't even appear on your signs. Because it's all about you, the agent.
Yeah, it's definitely something that comes up at PAR meetings all the time, and especially something like a triple play where we have New York and New Jersey agents.
Yeah.
It is a constant issue. So I'm not going to say much about this because those would be totally not legal in Pennsylvania. Promoting your open houses. Newspapers are pretty much dead. But mail outs, MLS system, the openthisweek.com is a great place, internet, Facebook, all your social media, anybody who's doing Instagram, TikTok, do something fun and cute, get it out there. Review checklists. The checklist, if you look on page 30 and 34, pages here.
33 and 34.
When you add all this up, this is quite a bit of stuff to do. But like Mindy says, if you have a little bag, most of this you don't have to do every single week. You can just kind of swap out the information. Oh, another really good thing to do, depending upon the house, is to have pre-printed forms that say, please do not use the facilities, and take saran wrap with you. And saran wrap the toilet, and then put the do not use on the lid, and then tape that, and then put a little ribbon over it, because people are going to use the facilities, and when they open up the lid and there's saran wrap, then they'll be coming flying out of the bathroom.
Yeah, I'm always on the fence about that, because obviously they don't have a fetish. I wouldn't imagine that they just want to come into your open house to use the facility. It's always an emergencies type,
Right.
so.
But
I'm
yeah,
on the fence about it.
and it depends on the situation.
I tell my
especially-
sellers, listen,
Yeah,
it's probably gonna happen.
it's
So
probably gonna
Don't
happen.
call me when
Yeah.
that perfectly chevron piece of toilet paper is gone from your roll.
Exactly. But I recently spoke with a colleague of mine who had an open house down in Maryland, carpeted bathroom floor. It was an older house. During the open house, it was a basement bathroom. Check before you leave. Always check before you leave that the tanks are not running.
Mhm.
Because someone used the facilities in the basement, out of sight, out of mind, overflowed, did tons of damage, all the carpet, the walls, the drywall, the wicking, yeah, from an open house. So just be prepared. I mean, look at these checklists and, adjust the temperature back. If it's 20 degrees outside and you have knocked that heat up from 52 to 68 while you're there, do not leave with it being 68. Put it back down, which also brings me to a note. Chair in the trunk, I talked about that.
I have to write a sticky note to myself to remind myself to turn it back.
Yes, yes. What's I gonna say? Oh, a shovel. You can get a $5 shovel at Five and Beyond or whatever that store is. It's a little collapsible one, so it's like this big, plastic. Now, you're not gonna do, a driveway with it, but it's a great thing to keep in your trunk in the winter for open houses. Because nothing sucks worse than getting to a vacant open house and it snowed and there you are.
Mhm.
If you can't get in, people aren't gonna come, and then you've spent all this time, so shovel the path. Yes, I know it sucks, it's not in our job description, but it is in our job description. We are representing the property and the seller the best we can. I don't care if it's disgusting little property, shovel it. So the seller isn't gonna think about it, especially if they're an investor and they live out of state, it's your responsibility. You're doing the open house, shovel it. You can buy a little shovel, collapses, stick it in your trunk, shovel it up. Ladies, or men too, put boots in your car, because you do not want to be out there in your cutesy little shoes when the driveway is like this on Deer Path Lane in Red Lion, and then you fall all the way down in your outfit, and your whole backside is wet for 2.5 hours. Instantly. So boots in the car, change into your
falls.
great, change into cute shoes later. You cannot shovel a driveway in high heels with a piece of paper. You need a shovel, so don't forget shovels. Trust, quality leads, exercise. So have y'all learned anything so far? Any tidbits? Anything that jumps out at you?
I had forgotten, well, I didn't forget, but it hasn't been advertised as much, the openthisweek.com. And so I will make a little loose site placard to invite people to go to there.
Or you can do a tent card, just print that, on there, because we spent a lot of time and energy and many, many hours of brokerage discussions to get that website, so pass that on.
Yeah, I didn't even know about that, so that's,
Yeah.
There
I
you
have
go.
that note.
A lot of meetings went into that website, so
They were supposed to have ongoing marketing for it, but
please take advantage of it. Another thing that I like to do with regards to marketing, and it's just a little something. I don't know if you guys know about it, but Susquehanna Style is a magazine kind of for this area, as well as over in Lancaster, they have Fig magazine, and then you can get your county magazines. So if you're in a house that might be like a reload price range, put those out as well. You know, you can again say open house copy. It doesn't have to be the current month's issue, but those are also nice ways to show you know about the neighborhood and you know about the region, and it gives you something to talk about. Because if they walk in and they pick up one of those and they're flipping around, they're like, oh, look, wineries. Then you can be like, oh yeah, there's a really good winery in Gettysburg. And then that can lead into another conversation. Or, yeah, do you like to kayak? Well, here, let me show you on page whatever. We have a, you know, a Lake Redmond and you can get kayaks, but it's something to show your knowledge about the area and give you a little bit more rapport and trust factor with the folks that are coming in. From there, oh yeah, memorize as much as you can. Again, if you were working for a builder, you would have to learn their script. Welcome to Worthington Trace. Hi, my name is Tina. How are you today? Please feel free to take a look around. I'm going to be over here in the kitchen. When you come back and you have questions, I'm not going to hover, I'm not going to bother you, but I am available. We have 8 floor plans in this community. I mean, like whatever you're doing, you need to be consistent. Fair housing is serious. We do have people from the state checking. So you want to be as consistent as possible. If it's a scuzzy little house in a scuzzy little neighborhood, you still need to say the exact same thing as a big, gorgeous house. You know, you can say, oh, gee, this house has a pool and this one, don't go outside because you're gonna get shot. But, you know, you have to be consistent with everybody who comes into the property. Meet and greet, make eye contact, ask about their family and school needs. I wouldn't do that because we don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But if it has 5 bedrooms, it's probably going to be a house for a family. So know which school district you're in and send them to the website or put something out on the kitchen table with that school information, but don't go there. Tour the home. People are smart enough to walk a house. You don't need to, you know, walk the house with them. Something positive and distinctive, so a positive tone. I always like to ask, what is one thing they really liked about the house? And what is one thing that may not fit their needs? And you kind of get a little bit of a surprised look because they're not anticipating what didn't you like about the house, but that's great information to either give back to the listing agent or if you're the listing agent to tell the sellers, because the sellers are always going to want to know how'd the open house go. And in today's world with Ring doorbells and nanny cams and all that, they're probably watching you through the whole open house anyway, so they already know. But they want to make sure that what you say to them is what people said to you. Back in the day, they had no way of knowing that every single person who walked through that house said, oh my God, this house smells like dogs. No, because you were too chicken at, you know, the listing appointment to say your house reeks. You have to figure out a way to say it. The open house, you can be like, well, we had 4 couples through, and of the 4, they all did mention, you know, so at this point, perhaps we should talk about getting an estimate for the carpet. Because it smells like a dead dog.
What about, do you ever show them feedback when, would that hurt their feelings? Like,
Absolutely, I tell them, and I leave a thank you note for the seller on the kitchen counter. Now, if it's a vacant house or if it's an investor event, in today's world, you can also email, text, or whatever, but you always leave something for them with feedback. Either you call them, you leave a handwritten note, you email them.
If they're your client.
If they're your
you're doing
client.
it for somebody else, you call that agent so
Yep.
they can check it.
Yeah, but it's nice to have something in writing because all the the people that came into my open house said this house reeked of dog. It wasn't my listing, but Mindy's clients didn't listen to her, because what does she know? But they're gonna listen to me, who they've never met, and these 4 stupid people that came through their house versus her. So if you type it and say, Mindy, you know, everything went great at the open house, everybody loved it, they thought it was priced right, but the only thing they didn't like is, you know, the dog smell. She can then, at her discretion, clean it up, or else just forward it directly. And, you know, this is what the agent who hosted the open house said, and it takes the pressure off her, and it really gives you a collegial boost to help your colleague out, because sometimes it's a little old lady who just can't afford it or won't do it. And the agent knows, they've tried and tried and tried, but sometimes hearing it a second time or a third time will really help. And it gives them ammunition. So yes, always thank the sellers for allowing you to do an open house. Another good thing is like talking to businesses around the open house. You know, if there's a pet store nearby or if there's a bakery, know about that, and you can maybe ask them if you can put out your cards there for the open house. Ask for referrals in the neighborhood. Thank everybody who came, obviously, that's common courtesy. And then if you have a really busy open house, figure out some code that only you can understand, that is not going to be offensive if somebody sees it. I have a booklet, and every page, you know, sign-in sheet, you can buy them at Rayak. But then I have in my own head the way I code people so that I can remember the girl in the pink jacket, new buyer, you know, the guy in the black top, you know, possible listing. Figure out some kind of a system so that the next person who comes in and signs their name, do it on the back side or whatever. Nowadays, you can put a little note in your phone. But if you get a really busy open house and you have like 20 people through, when you go to thank them all, you will not remember any of them apart. And you'll be like, crap, the one with the baby, I wanted to call them back. Oh, which one are they? And you won't have a clue. Take different colored highlighters with you, you know, put a little dot by their name, something so that when they walk out of the house or they go into the dining room, and if they sign their name, you can like identify them for later. Because sometimes it's a zoo and you truly are trying to make sure that nothing walks away from the house, that everybody's happy, that they're not dropping stuff on the floor, that the kid didn't vomit in this bedroom, that they didn't steal a Barbie doll and, you know, a little Matchbox car here. Like, don't use the bathrooms. Like, you're running 3 different places, especially if it's a really large house, but you want to make sure you follow up with that one person. Put something, figure out a system so that you know at the end who you can contact. And if out of that 20, you got a lot of Mickey and Minnie Mouses who signed up, little ducks, some variety, a lot of no names, because then or they made it up, and then you won't know till you go to send your thank you note and it'll bounce back, or you handwrite it, you take the time, you put a stamp on it, you mail it, and then it comes back as undeliverable. Just try to thank them, because this may be the only opportunity you get to see them. So there's some good scripts in your paperwork. I think we need to do the exercise. Saw some of those happening.
You know, a cool thing I learned on, well, might be common sense for other people, but instead of taking the property flyers, is somehow going in, I guess we can do it through command, but you can create your own property flyer with a QR code and then just have that QR code there for them to scan, and then all your information's in their phone.
Another thing we talked about, it was in one of the classes I went to in December at Triple Play. Y'all know me that I'm more like low tech as we can get. So like, I like people signing in, but at Triple Play, there was an agent who talked about an iPad sign-in sheet. And what they did, this was,
Yeah, what is that called?
they bought,
Openhome.com or something?
no, they bought like a Chromebook, a super inexpensive Chromebook. And all the team uses it for. They have 2 or 3, and everybody in their team like uses these Chromebooks because they said sometimes they do walk away. I think it was a New Jersey agent. So all they have there is it's some kind of a cataloging system. It's a generic app, and if you pushed on me, I could probably find it in my PAR notes from Triple Play. But that's what they do. So they ask people to type in their email address into this Chromebook. And again, they don't set it right next to them in the kitchen. They set it in another space so people aren't feeling hoovered on, you know, put it in the dining room or something. But that way, if people want truly to get information, they're entering their own email address and nobody's pushing them to do that. And that way you'll know it's correct. And so then it went into like this like app thing for everybody in their team to use it. And then on Mondays, they'd each kind of go through and be like, okay, who sat at Main Street? Who sat at, you know, South Street? Who sat at George Street? And then they would go through and talk about their leads and stuff. And then they would take them out of the Chromebook and download them to what they needed to do. But I thought that was an interesting option for somebody who's more high-techy than I am, because then you're going to get the actual email address, because sometimes you can't tell, is that a Q? Is it a funky S? Is it a G? Like, what the heck is that word? So if they're typing it in, you know, so I thought that was interesting. If you're going to really seriously do some open houses, invest in a Chromebook like that. Sometimes it's nice to pull the deed before you go to an open house, especially if you're doing like a farm or a larger property or something that's maybe out like down in Delta or up at Dillsburg or kind of out off the beaten path, not in a subdivision. So go to Landex, pull the deed and have that information in your
Where
pocket.
do you get it?
Landex.com.
Land X.
EX.
Okay, oh, okay.
Next. So you know about zoning. So, you know, these folks think that they're going to be buying a beautiful farm only to learn that, oops, it's going to be commercial pretty soon. There's going to be something else there. So sometimes it's nice to look at the deeds before you do an open house. We didn't really talk, and there isn't any information in here about brokers opens, but back in the day, we used to do them a lot because we didn't have the internet and we didn't have a common database for pictures. So if you had a really nice listing and you wanted other agents to see it and to make your sellers happy during the week, not on the weekends, but you would hold a broker's open, and that would just be for your colleagues. And that's kind of a fun way, if the seller permits it, to get a sandwich tray and get some beverages and encourage, beg, plead for your colleagues to come. And in the old days, we used to have caravan day. Everybody would get in their cars, and after sales meeting, we would all schlep around town and snack at everybody's houses to do open houses. And we would learn, you know, where your properties were, and we would all see them. So you would like go through, you know, with like 10 other people or 20 other people, and you would tour the house, and they were all realtors from your company. So it was a great opportunity to learn and say, listen to like the old dogs talk about this or that, or they would know stuff about those neighborhoods, you know, like when that street was put in and who this builder was, and this guy bought the land from so-and-so, and all that stuff is really great, because even today, when I'm showing properties over in like Penn Oaks, like I remember stuff from caravan tours that, you know, you can tell people and then you'll look like the neighborhood expert. But doing a broker's open sometimes might be a good way to impress your seller. Probably not going to sell the house, but it might be a good way to.
Well, everybody fills out a survey and gives those same comments.
Right,
that
exactly.
maybe you've already said, but they're tone deaf to.
Exactly. So if 8 different realtors all tell them who are not getting paid, it smells like cat pee, they might listen. Update your database, follow up with the agents for sure, follow up with the guests, follow up with visiting agents. You're gonna get agents also who come through occasionally. And the more you're around, you'll know them, but at the beginning, you won't know those people are agents. So greet everyone the exact same.
You get one or two office managers that'll come to try to recruit you.
Yep, you'll get lenders who
Shake 'em.
try to earn your business sometimes, because you're a
Home
captive audience.
inspectors.
Yeah, you'll get, home inspectors will come through. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and they see an open house and they know it's got a well, you'll get, people coming through, like, you just don't have a clue who's gonna come through your door. So they know you're a captive audience, and back in the day, lenders used to like cycle through those open houses, man.
Yeah,
And they bring you a little snack.
they're gonna have to work like that again.
They're gonna
sometime
have to
soon.
work again, yeah. But it was like, oh, look, it's show and tell.
They haven't
Somebody
been
else
outside their
came
house in years.
Yeah, I know. No more stretch pants. They gotta actually put on real
No.
clothes and go to sit in an open house with you.
Yeah.
But that's a really good way to learn too in the beginning. Pick a lender every week that's from a different company and have them talk to the people that are coming through, because you will learn a ton about the industry. And if each of them explain their bank or programs and promotions, but they'll all talk about conventional loans, they'll all talk about FHA loans, they'll all talk about VA loans. And so you really get this great one-on-one tutorial also. Yeah, you just don't know who's gonna come. All sorts of crazy people. What's your goal? Get it all together. Jen, open house plan, lots of planning is the key. So are any of you guys actually doing open houses right now? How's it going?
Good.
What are you finding is like the current feel and vibe out there from the buyers that are coming through?
They're basically using the lessons that I've learned from speaking to the different market analysis, the percentage, interest rates, is there going to be more inventory? Just basically regurgitating, sounding knowledgeable about the market, then they get interested. So, and also with my new listings, offering them open houses as like incentive too, rather than keeping it, with the coming soon, then the next place for open house, then, because it's literally on and then it's gone.
Right.
So I think like right now for this week and next week, I've literally maneuvered that I can have the open house before I do all the paperwork for the listing. I feel like almost advantageous to get that little market glitch for myself as a new agent. It's
That's great.
beneficial. Yeah, so that's what I'm experiencing now. Is that I'm wanting it more so for myself, I feel, than they do. So it's more like I'm offering a service is what I'm getting, the vibe is.
Absolutely, absolutely. I would also encourage you guys to go to as many open houses as you can, not necessarily to host them, but take the Sunday from 1 to 3. Go to openthisweek.com and see, there aren't going to be a ton anymore, but pick 10 open houses and go to the open houses. You don't have to stay there very long because you're waiting in the house, but go greet the agent, see what they have and what they don't have out. See how many directionals they put out. Go to different companies' open houses, see what propaganda and marketing they put out. It's always interesting to know what your competition is doing because the buyers are circling around. Remember that picture of the house? If all those 5 houses had open houses and you're just stuck in yours, you know what you're doing. But, what if somebody else is giving, a raffle? What if somebody else is saying, sign up, put your little name here, scan my QR code and win a Sheetz gift card for gas. I'll mail it to you by Wednesday. Crap, I wasn't doing that. I didn't even have cookies. Like think outside the box. Figure out a way to get get their name and contact information. You know, a $10 Sheets card or a $10 Rudders card or a $10 Walmart card with a little fishbowl at, you know, put your name in here and, you know, you only have one person come to your open house, guess who's getting it? But they don't know that because they came at 1 o'clock. And even if they come at 3 o'clock and there's no names in it, you just tell them that you empty it every 15 minutes. You know, another thing to do is seed, if you're doing a written sign-in sheet, is seeded. Your sister, your mother, your best friend, Mickey Mouse, make it up. My sister has been to so many open houses and she lives in Missouri. Because nobody wants to be the first on a blank sheet of paper. And so I put her name in and I do it with my left hand, so it doesn't look like my handwriting, because I am gonna send them a thank you note. So, you know, so I make it kind of look kind of like her writing, and I put her name, and then I just make up a total funky phone number for her, you know, for this area code. And usually I just put her real number, but this area code with it. And then like make up a fake email for her. And then maybe even 2 or 3. You know, nobody wants to be the first, but that's also when you need your magic markers, so you know which ones are the fake ones, so you don't accidentally try to prospect to somebody you made up. But those would be some good activities, I would say. And then we're back to our favorite thing, 3 hours a day.
You really
All
have
right.
to do a time block. I keep messing around with it and I'm suffering from paralysis of overanalysis. I need to do it.
You just
I
need to
need
do
to
it.
do it by the end of the week.
I know.
Mhm.
Well, when you look at this list of this checklist, you're like, holy crap, that's a lot. You know, but it does go back to everything is in the preparation. And you don't have to do it all every single time. But once you get in the habit and you have your little open house bag ready, you just insert the new address and you can wing it for the most part. So, happy open housing.
Thank
Any
you.
questions, thoughts? All right,
Thank you, Tina.
you're very
Thank you,
welcome. I don't know who was up there, I couldn't see.
Juan and Megan.
Hey, Juan.
Everyone. Thanks, Tina.
You're very welcome, take care, have a good day. I should have asked them if they had any questions either, but I guess.
Thank you for that, though, honestly.
Oh, you're very welcome. We didn't even have any tech issues. I got my key. Great.
Thank you very much.
You are very welcome. What she said, what he said? Yeah, right.
Settle down and get your coffee. I'll see you in a few.
Cheers.
Okay.
So basically, your concern is how are you gonna prove your income to the park? So I'm actually on the team with the listing agent for the park, for the trailer in that park, so I can actually talk to him, and see if you'll actually need like any type of information like that. I actually think that we can get you in there without you needing all that information as much as you think you need. So let me just give him a quick conversation and then I can get that back to you, if that's okay with you. Right, right. Okay, I feel like we can still get you in there. Just let me reconfirm with him and I'll give you a call as soon as